It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another episode of Hood Tales. In this video, I'll be taking it to Decatur, Georgia, to discuss the unfortunate loss of a high school homecoming queen caught in the middle of a love triangle between two men she was dating. But before we get into this video, please don't forget to hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and join the Tony 2 Times family. Tap that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Also, if you'd like to see more episodes of Hood Tales, please click the link to the playlist in the description box after this video to get caught up. And be sure to share this video with everyone you know. Stay tuned until the end to hear all the details. All right, let's get into it. Jayne Salazar-Chavez was born on July 25th, 2005. She was her mother's only daughter. Jayne was a loving and caring child. She possessed leadership qualities early on and touched the hearts and minds of everyone she came in contact with. Jayne would go on to attend Towers High School in Decatur, Georgia. By her senior year, 17-year-old Jayne was an accomplished leader in her school's Air Force JROTC program. She took her role in the program very seriously and earned many accolades and awards. Many of the program's participants looked up to Jayne, and other cadets often got great advice from her. Jayne was adored and respected by her peers and school staff. In October 2022, Jayne was voted Homecoming Queen. The first person she called after winning the title was her mother. She told her mother how excited she was. Jayne had plans on joining the military after graduating high school. She was looking forward to all that life had to offer her. Sadly, tragedy would strike before Jayne could get a chance to live her life to her full potential. On November 10th, 2022, Jayne's boyfriend, 24-year-old Army soldier Brandon Wilson, came to town for a surprise visit for the upcoming Veterans Day weekend. Brandon pulled up to Jayne's home in the 4100 block of Burgess Drive in a 2017 silver Lexus. When Brandon got there, he asked Jayne to come outside. That was the last time that Jayne's mother saw her alive. Jayne got into Brandon's car, but according to Brandon, Jayne was acting withdrawn. Brandon became suspicious and wondered if Jayne had started seeing someone else. Brandon asked her the question directly and then insisted on seeing her phone. Upon going through her phone, Brandon came across a suggestive text from an unidentified number. Brandon confronted Jayne about the text. Brandon then called the number, and the person on the other end picked up. It was another guy. Brandon quickly ended the call without saying anything. Moments later, the same number called back Jayne's phone, and Brandon answered. The caller, later identified as 24-year-old Nakia Dorsey, argued with Brandon about which one of them was really Jayne's boyfriend. During the argument, Nakia demanded that Jayne return his belongings to him. After all the drama, Brandon and Jayne left the house together. They later returned around 11 o'clock that night. Parked outside of Jayne's house, Brandon noticed a red laser shining onto his face. He saw a man dressed in all black walk up to the car, pointing a handgun with a laser and open fire. Shots rang out as Brandon turned the car around to leave, but the gunman continued to unload into the car. A neighbor's Ring camera captured the sound of the shots fired. Brandon drove to a Valero gas station about a mile away on Glenwood Road and called 911. He had been shot in the leg and Jayne was badly injured, suffering from multiple wounds to her upper body. When police and paramedics arrived at the Valero on Glenwood, they found Jayne lying on the ground. She had not survived her injuries and was pronounced gone at the scene. She was hit in her arm and torso. Brandon was rushed to the hospital to be treated for his injuries. A total of 20 shots were fired into the vehicle. The news of Jayne's untimely slaying shook up the community. Residents of Jayne's neighborhood couldn't believe what had happened. Many at first thought it was a drive-by. They didn't know if Jayne and Brandon were targeted or if it was a random attack. Jayne's mother was, of course, absolutely devastated. It was hard for her to wrap her mind around how Jayne lost her life. That was her baby girl, and now she's gone. All she remembered from that day was Jayne leaving the house to meet her boyfriend and not returning home. She wanted Jayne to be remembered for her kindness and love she had for others. Jayne's mother showcased Jayne's medals and her homecoming crown. Students and staff at Towers High School were also saddened by the news of Jayne losing her life. Jayne touched so many, and many of the students struggled with the devastating news. Jayne was laid to rest a week later. During the initial investigation into Jayne's slaying, DeKalb County Police received an anonymous tip that led them to the other man Jayne was dating, Nakia Dorsey. Detectives began to look into Jayne's social media messages and confirmed that Nakia was the one who had been in contact with Jayne. Investigators later obtained cell phone location data that showed Nakia was at Jayne's home just before the shooting. Nakia was arrested on January 12, 2023, at an apartment complex in Morrow, Georgia, in Clayton County. He was taken to the DeKalb County Jail and was charged with malice murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. The news of Nakia's arrest brought even more grief to Jayne's mother. All she said she could do was cry. While his capture was one step closer to closing the case, it wasn't going to bring Jayne back. Months later, in the summer of 2023, Nakia went to trial for slaying Jayne and injuring Brandon. The prosecution noted in the trial that Nakia knew both Jayne and Brandon were in the vehicle when he opened fire. They deemed his motive to be jealousy. A jury would find Nakia guilty of felony murder, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. Following the verdict, the judge presiding over the trial sentenced Nakia to life in prison plus 25 years. The sentences are to run consecutively. May Jayne Salazar-Chavez continue to rest peacefully. My belated condolences to her mother and loved ones. My well wishes go out to her and all affected by this terrible tragedy. Jayne had so much going for her. She seemed to have her life on track and had big plans for her future, all for it to be stripped away over messiness, pride, and ego. She was so young and still had so much growing up to do. Just to note, while most of us may not condone the age difference in the relationship between Jayne and Brandon and Jayne and Nakia, although it's not made clear how long either of them were dating, the age of consent in Georgia is 16. Not dismissing anything, just stating a fact if anyone was wondering. Either way, Jayne didn't deserve to lose her life. It's so important to be honest in relationships from the beginning, especially if there are no plans to be completely exclusive or monogamous, or if those plans change. Some people can't handle rejection well, especially if they have fallen in love or just became obsessed. You can never trust an angry person. You never know how far a person is willing to go. Again, may Jayne rest in peace. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this story in the comments. Do you think Jayne knew Nakia was capable of doing what he did? Do you think it was jealousy that drove Nakia to commit this heinous act? Or was it something deeper than that? Let me know in the comments below. Alright fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. Until next time.